Craveable Podcast, Episode 6, Grilling and Barbecue.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, and welcome to the Craveable Podcast, where real matters. We are your hosts, Ben and Katie, and this episode is all about grilling and barbecue, and brought to you by Fossil Farms.
All of those things are true.
They are.
And we did actually a while back, and I think this might be a good segue into the topic. We had an event here at the office that I think we all quite enjoyed. I know we all have a little bit of a competitive drive in us, some more than others. Maybe that's just me tempering what I'll have to explain later. But we do every single year what we call our Burger Bash. Do you want to explain to the crowd what it's about?
I would love to. So this year was our 4th annual Burger Bash. And I believe it started with us at Fossil Farms realizing that we didn't have a ton of awesome photos of our burger line. And there's a huge burger line at Fossil Farms, and, you know, it's super popular. So we're like, why don't we have some awesome shots of burgers? And so somebody, probably our VP, Ben, decided we do this competition where basically everyone on the sales team was required to participate, and you picked a number out of a bag that corresponded to a number on one of our varieties of burger proteins.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was rough, you know, that first year.
First year, yeah.
So you got, I believe we got 1.5 to 2 hours to.
I think it was just one. The first year was only an hour. That's why it was so tight. We were all like, "Oh, that's no problem. Time. It's 3 burgers, whatever."
Yeah, that's not enough time. So we had some amount of time to basically, you know, and a big amount of ingredients available to us, and we had to come up with our burger. We had a couple different options we could use for cooking, you know, flat top in the kitchen, grill, smoker outside. And then we basically had to cut each burger into tiny pieces.
Eighths.
6.
Have you ever cut a burger?
No, it was 6.
Oh, 6 at the time. Yeah,
year,
now it's 8.
Which I couldn't.
Yeah,
I had a very hard time managing. Yeah. And then basically the whole staff of Fossil Farms comes outside and tries every burger and votes on their favorite. And then a burger king or queen is named. So that's
burger
generally,
person.
Yeah, burger person, burger royale. And that's generally how it's been for the first 3 years. And then this year we switched it up a bit and we did teams. So it was teams of 2, and otherwise all the rules were the same, except we got 2 hours this time. So there's a lot of trash talking leading up to the Burger Bash.
Oh, that might be the best
every
part.
year.
If you don't win, that's definitely the best part.
For sure. But you get your years of bragging rights and a marvelous, authentic, you know, gold, old European crown.
Yeah, imported from Denmark, I think.
It's a plastic crown.
It's
but hey,
made in China.
It means a lot, right? And I feel like most years it's always been pseudo landslide, or at least close, right?
Yeah,
people favor one burger
for sure
greatly over all the others.
Yeah,
which is really interesting.
they favor mine to an extent. I don't think we even like place, because really you either win or you don't.
Well, I didn't. I got the first year I got the antelope, and I was all bent out of shape. It was either the first year or 2 years ago. Can't remember what I got last year. And some people after the fact, they're like, "Oh, I really like that one." I'm like, but you didn't vote for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you didn't like it enough.
Don't come up to me and tell me that you loved my burger.
Didn't like it enough.
But you didn't vote for me.
No.
Brutal.
So this year was actually pretty cool because the team that won was Derek, who is on the marketing kitchen team.
Love
and
him.
He's great. He works in the kitchen mainly, also in the store. And Lee, who is one of our warehouse supervisors. And
love him too.
Yeah. And last year was the first time we had anyone from the warehouse participate, even though we've been trying to get them to.
Yeah, we ask every year.
And it was Lee.
It's open to the entire office. Whoever wants to participate can participate.
Exactly. And so we
Burger beware.
Yeah. We had a couple people from the warehouse this year, and I was very glad to see Lee win. And Derek certainly talked his fair share of you-know-what prior. And, you know.
That's what we love about him.
He backed it up, so I guess.
He's being silly.
You know, what can you say? But no, it was really fun. It's a good time for everyone, and, you know, a bunch of awesome pictures of everyone having a great time and running around like crazy maniacs. And do you want to explain what you and Ben did, your burger this year?
Not
If you
really, because we
remember.
didn't win, but we picked a pretty hard protein. Like, we do carry basically one burger for almost every protein that we carry, for the most part, outside of a lot of the game birds. But we also do these really awesome, like, pre-seasoned burgers. Like, we do like a bison chipotle, we do the Wagyu truffle, and then we had the lamb harissa burger, which I do love, and it's a great burger, but it's overwhelming in its flavor, and we tried to really dress it up. So we did like smoked and roasted maitake mushrooms. We did a like ramp tahini sauce with it.
You were outside picking chives.
Yeah, we were
flowers
doing
at
like
one
chive
point.
flowers on it, and like shaved red onion, and all the components together tasted really great. And then as soon as I tried the burger, I was like, oh, I don't love it. I'm not gonna win.
I mean,
It was my like second or third least favorite burger out of the bunch.
I disagree with that, but I love the lamb harissa burger.
Did you
but
vote for me?
No.
Oh, well, then what are you telling me?
Because I
that
didn't
for?
say it was my least favorite. I was being honest. I love the lamb harissa burger, but the way I like it is with stuff that mellows it out, like the classic basic B, like cucumber,
Yeah.
tzatziki.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's what I like, a little red onion. That like I like that.
Like a gyro burger.
Bas-
Gyro, hero, whatever you want to
Hero.
call it.
I think it's hero.
Hero.
Hero. I don't know. Anyway, do you want to know what we did?
Yeah, tell
Well,
me.
I know you.
Please.
You
I
might
don't
not
remember what you did. There were so many burgers and so many
Right.
toppings, so you explain.
So Ace, my partner, who's one of our
Ooh,
outside sales
tell us
reps.
your team name, because you had a really good team name.
Yes. Okay. So our team name was Case Closed, but spelled KACE. Very clever.
Very clever.
But so Ace actually called me the morning of the Burger Bash. It was like 7:50 or 8, and he's like he's strategizing with me, and he goes, "Oh, can you put an order in for me?" And I was like, "Ace, I'm still at the gym. Like I'm not in the office." And he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, "Okay,
7:30
well,
in the morning.
I'll call you back." But no, we decided it was his idea, and I was totally for it because I feel like everyone goes over the top to keep it super simple. And he definitely ran with the ideas. I agreed with them. But we literally we got an elk burger, which has won for the past 2 years. So we thought we had a shoe in, but we were wrong. And so we just did basic potato bun, elk burger cooked in a little bit of foie gras fat. We did a sauce that was basically just 2-to-1 mayonnaise, Dijon mustard. And then we diced up some white onions, tossed in cornstarch, fried. Sliced onion rounds, same thing, cornstarch fried. We mixed the diced onions into the sauce, cooked up some bacon, and then basically it was just elk burger, cheddar cheese, slice of tomato, butter lettuce, that secret sauce, let's call it, and then the onion rings crispy on it. So it was pretty simple, but
It turned out great. Looked great.
thank you. I think I did the math on the tally. I think we came in third.
Third is good.
Which I'll take.
We got one vote.
I got no votes the Antelope year, so I'm not hearing it.
All right.
But anyway, we digress. So with Labor Day coming up, we figure this is like
Right around the corner.
Right around the corner. This is like a perfect topic: grilling and barbecue. And grilling is technically a type of barbecue. So as I said earlier, all grilling is barbecue, but not all barbecue is grilling.
This is true. Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, Ben, you want to like shimmy on in and tell about some of the other methods of barbecue? That
Yeah.
exist?
Because
There's not
I
that
think
many more. There's
it's
like
so
only a
like
few.
quintessentially American though, doing barbecue and like having these cookouts. But at the same time, the more we like looked into it before this podcast, there's so much out there, and we were definitely aware of it. But literally every culture in the world has their version of barbecue, be it, more traditional smoking that we think of as barbecue, which down south, if you said that you were having a barbecue and you didn't actually have a smoker out, then they would tar and feather you, basically, right? I mean, they would. But, there's things like barbacoa, which is basically where the word barbecue comes from. That's coming from the islands and like the Oaxacan Peninsula. And then there's like binchotan grilling in Japan. And there's like the churrasco style of grilling in Argentina that we all know and love. So there's so many different things out there. So there's limitless things that you can do when Labor Day comes around. It's just a matter of what you have. Like some people have like a China box for a whole pig, or some people would have like a competition style smoker at home. God bless them for being able
That's
to
a lot.
source that. Yeah.
That's a lot for
I have
me.
no grill and no smoker right now because I'm stuck in an apartment. And I think we were talking the other day that you do have access to a grill. So I'm trying to wonder to myself, like, what am I going to do? But usually I'll just buy a bunch of meat and go to someone else's house and they'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
you're going to cook for us? I'm like, no.
Or you can come over to our apartment and we can use the 2 giant mega grills, which I said
We could.
I've
You
never
making margaritas?
I've never used. Sure,
Yeah, let's do
if
it.
you bring the tequila. That's-
Yeah, right.
But no, so Ben is totally right. I mean, when we were looking into some research for the episode, it's like literally every country has their version of it. Everywhere, like every continent throughout it. I mean, and there's all different words, like, you know, Barbie is your classic Australian, New Zealand word for barbecue.
Shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah, shrimp on the barbie. And I forgot what we said it was called in Africa. I can't remember, but I know
like Bawai or something.
Bari.
Barai. Yeah.
or something. There's 2 A's, but
Yeah.
I said I probably was mispronouncing it. But and it's super interesting because what I think is super interesting about it is that, you know, here in the US, we just kind of like have taken other people's food cultures from basically everywhere and they're ours or whatever, we use them. But we're actually known for barbecue. That's like we're widely known for that.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, so grilling is technically a type of barbecue. Everyone thinks of it differently because you use the word to mean the food, the device you use to make the food on, and the event that you're serving
Right,
the food
exactly.
on. They're all barbecue.
Which is great because I think one of the things, and I think you might agree with this, is that when it comes to food, being pedantic and like really particular about certain things is kind of like the fun part. You're nerding out about it and you're like, well, technically. And then
Mhm.
that whole conversation goes off the rails. Like we were talking about all the different styles of barbecue in the US
Mhm.
alone. We're just talking about like, you know, smoked barbecue, like with there being Kansas City style. There's different styles in Texas alone. You can have the Carolina style barbecue, which I really like with that more vinegary sauce and like definitely more pork oriented. But for me, I think of like the big cuts like brisket, short ribs. Those are the things I think of when I think of barbecue, especially like when we lean into like the more competition side of things. Like if you can smoke a really good brisket and it comes out perfectly, you're spending 18 hours on it. What's better than that? Like I watch those YouTube videos and the guys are like, they cut it in half and they're squeezing all the
Yeah.
juices out. And then they
I'm
like
like, leave the
hold
juice
it
in
on
there.
one thing and they're like, oh, see the bend. And I'm like, it's not a competition, dude. Just eat the barbecue.
That's very true. And I don't remember what the 4th style was in the United States, but I know it's the Carolina, the Kansas City, the Texas, and then there was one other, Memphis, I think.
Yeah, Memphis.
Memphis. But I mean, they're
Sweeter
all
sauce.
Yeah, it's funny because we were reading about the different types and what makes them different, and like there are technically differences, but
Just
they're
little tweaks.
they're not
you know?
that different. Like you said, Kansas City, their big thing is a sweet sauce, so it's like molasses and ketchup based, and they do like pork primarily, ribs and
big on
and
ribs.
pulled, and then Carolina, like you said, they're totally known for that vinegar sauce, whether it's like marinating the meat in it or serving it after, and pork and doing whole hog, which we love.
Whole hog. We do that a
Love.
lot here at Fossil Farms.
We do.
A lot of whole hog.
And then Texas is kind of like, I mean, at least for me, like when I think of barbecue, I definitely am thinking of Texas style barbecue, which is like they use primarily beef and pork, but like chicken, whatever. And then the sauce is almost like the Kansas City in that it's tomato based, but it's not so sweet and it's a little bit spicier. And that's kind of the bar when I think of barbecue. That's, I guess, what I'm imagining as like,
Yeah, that
you know.
barbecue plate. You got an orange cafeteria tray with butcher
Yeah.
paper on it. And like your sides come in the cheapest possible container. Like if I got a ramekin, an actual ramekin, I'd be like, I'm sorry, this is way too frou-frou. Can you just put it into the palm of my hand
Just
and I'll
put it
eat
on-
the
just
collard
put it on the
greens like
plate.
that?
I
It would
mean,
feel more authentic that way.
it would. When we went to Austin last year, we like felt like we didn't really get great barbecue.
Yeah.
And like
We're spoiled a little bit though, you and I. So
here,
yeah.
yeah. I definitely felt that like Stubbs was a little bit overrated. Sorry for being a hater. But then on the way out, literally on the way to the airport, we stopped at this place. Oh, I'm never gonna be able to remember the name, but it was just like on the side of the road,
Yeah.
and they're so mad I can't remember the name. And the the logo was like a pig with like a hat, and maybe he had a gun. I don't know. But
he probably had a gun.
I'd
like to picture it's a pig with
I don't
a
really
trucker
know.
hat and a gun.
Yeah, but it was
straw hanging out of his
so
mouth.
Mad, I can't remember the name. But so we went in, and none of us were starving, but we were hungry. We wanted to get something before going to the airport. And I couldn't.
I'm kidding. Like, my mouth's watering just thinking about it.
I'll show you pictures.
Yeah.
And I couldn't just try one thing. I was like, I refuse to just try one thing. So I got like the 2 meat plate with brisket, and I think I got pulled pork, maybe chicken. Either way, it was phenomenal. It was our favorite barbecue we had when we were there. And I got full so embarrassingly quickly that I took it to go, and I was like, I can bring this. Katie, you can't, like, your barbecue isn't going to make it through the security checkpoint. And I'm like, why not? Like, it's not liquid. Anyway, I felt too silly to try that, but we were sitting we were sitting at a bar, like, before you even go through security or check in. And I'm just sitting there, like, trying to shovel barbecue in my mouth. And I'm like so full, and I'm like, but it's so much food. I don't want to let it go away. And they're both so full. They're looking at me like, that's disgusting that you're
it's the American way.
That right now.
Leave her alone.
I didn't want to waste it, and it was so good. But yeah, it's definitely great, and that's what I think of. But yeah, I mean, grilling too. I don't know. We talked about this. Like, you really love grilling.
Yeah.
And I don't really grill that often.
I think it's huge. I think it's one of those things that, like, you can impart so much flavor into something simple. Like, just like a pork chop and grilled asparagus, all just done on the same grill, is so fantastic. And I wish I had one now, because I would probably use it all the time. Like, if I was food prepping on a Sunday, I'd actually enjoy it. I'd actually get out of my house and do something. Yeah. But that's also one of the reasons I love the summer American holidays, because you get Memorial Day, you get 4th of July. You can segue Father's Day into there, because why not? Yeah. And then Labor Day. So all summer, you're like basically looking for an excuse to get together and like cook all of this meat and literally eat in the sun, pass out, and wake up with a sunburn. But
no alcohol involved.
Yeah, no alcohol involved.
None.
I mean, there's usually some involved. But I think I could do a lot of damage without it anyway. Yeah.
But I know, like, so you just hit on that point. I think, like, that's one of the reasons why barbecue is so huge in virtually all of the country, because like, pretty much everyone does it every year at some point. And we have all these holidays that are barbecue centric, and, you know, that a lot of people look forward to. And I know we mentioned, like, earlier we were talking about this episode, you know, it's like a very interesting kind of nod to our ancestral roots, you know, cooking over fire,
right,
outside, you know, over wood, whatever the case
socializing,
may be.
Everybody's waiting
involved.
for it to be done.
Yeah. And so people always, like, it's great. I mean, you usually associate it with a good time. You know, you have camaraderie. You feel like, you know, you're outside. You feel good in nature, and you're happy with each other. So, I mean, it's obvious why it's such a big thing. And especially in the summer. I mean, everyone's like, oh, I can't wait for it to get warm so I can barbecue.
Right, exactly. Or you have like the other side of it where you're like in Minnesota and you're freezing close to death for 9 months of the year, and you're like, oh, it's only -10 out. I'm definitely grilling tonight.
Get out the grill.
Got to get out there before 5 p.m. and the wind chill brings it to -40. I mean, but people are out there in shorts and boots and their grill. I know. I mean, I've had conversations with people, and they're like, I would rather grill in the winter because I'm warm in front of it, or do barbecue because it's like you have a little fire there. And I'm like, no. Well, there's a lot of crazies.
Yeah, no, that's
cool. It's good to be passionate. A little je ne sais quoi.
I guess.
I mean, passion.
I do know that when I lived with my dad, you know, years ago, when he gets in his mind that he wants to grill something, and he like plans to grill that dinner, like he always grills fish because he doesn't want the house to smell, and he really only cooks swordfish, but he does it very well. And no matter what the weather was, any of those nights that he planned to do it, he was grilling it. Like one time there was a literal thunderstorm, and he was like, well, I have the swordfish.
I have no choice.
He's out there with an umbrella. I'm like, are you okay? Like,
is that umbrella made of wood? Put that down.
We can cook it in a pan. Like, please.
Hey, Ben Franklin, please.
I seriously
we don't
always
need to discover lightning.
Every time I was like, if this was me, I would 100% not be using the grill. Like that. I mean, but grilled swordfish is exceptional, and he's like mastered it because he's been doing it for so many years.
Some things have to be done on the grill.
Yeah, it's very good. But that is one that really lends itself to it. But yeah, I think, people are they're loyal to their grills. And
Seriously. And there's so many brands out there. I know a couple people in our office got like this fancy grill / smoker things, and they can control them with their phones and their Bluetooth and all that. And I'm jealous. I'm just waiting to get to the point that I have enough square footage to even do something like that.
I mean, I once, years ago when I managed the store here, I remember this customer came in once. It's like regular, you know, buddies were chatting it up. And
Hamming it up.
Yeah, we're hamming it up. And he mentioned, he was like, oh, yeah, I got a brisket going right now, or like a butt, whatever it was. And he like pulls out his phone and he's like, look, this is what it's doing right now. This is the temperature. I was like, are you serious? And this was like 5 years ago. So I was like, this is the coolest thing
really
I've ever seen. I was like, what's your address? When is dinner? But no, it is very cool. And I know a lot of people, maybe it's like the end of the trend or maybe not. I could be wrong. But a lot of people at home have those big green eggs because they're like they're not too big, right? Like,
I mean, they're like a sizable machine, but I don't think like any bigger than a normal grill. I think people like something unique. I know that they're made of ceramic. They hold heat really well. I'm pretty sure you can attach a firebox to the back end of them. I've seen that. I mean, I watch a lot of cooking YouTube, for better or for worse. Maybe I should get a life, but it's okay.
No.
Anything that's food related, I'm usually watching.
Yeah. I mean,
I would love a big green egg, or even doing get one of those, like just do an open fire pit and you're basically like hanging your meats over it, kind of how we do when we have our farm dinners, like just a full outdoor cooking setup.
Yeah.
That stuff. I think it takes like a deft hand to cook over open fire.
That's like pretty badass. Like what we do. So Fossil Farms has a family owned partner farm in Sussex County, New Jersey. And we often do events up there, farm dinners, you know, staff events. And we basically have this whole outdoor kitchen set up with, I mean, everything. There's like a built-in pit, which
literal barbacoa pit, right? Yeah, with a pulley system.
With a pulley system that our VP built, and so you can put. I mean, you could put a whole. We've done like a whole big tile fish, whole pigs, of course. So we got that, and then there's several just fire pits with various like Is it apparati or apparatuses?
Apparatuses? That's a great question.
One of those words.
We're done here.
Like metal hanging hooks. And so it's very cool. Like you'll go up there and there's a fire that's, you know, it's definitely not burning high. I don't want to say barely burning, but
no,
you know,
but there's a good fire. It's not just a bed of coals or anything like that. We're constantly feeding. It's a pretty big pit. Like, you know,
you're right. It is a big pit. And then and
now they have two. I mean, the whole setup there is crazy.
Yeah. And they'll literally there'll be these giant, like horror movie looking hooks,
meat hooks
hanging down with
everything.
like a whole, I don't know, like we wouldn't do.
They were doing
lamb
boneless,
saddles or something.
Lamb saddles he did, and then we also did like the goat legs that we deboned and then rolled. So it was like almost like a goat ballantine kind of.
Right.
And then we roasted that whole thing over there, and that took basically all day because you're just going low and slow.
I just think that's so cool because like in a smoker, pretty much like any traditional smoker, you at least have a temperature gauge of like seeing what temperature the smoker's at. And you have valves because, you know, it's super important to keep the smoke circulating openly around the meat, because if it can't do like one, you know,
full
revolution around and then get out, it starts to impart a bitter flavor on the meat. Right. But in this case, it's literally out in the open on a field, just hung over like basically light to medium smoke wafting over it. Like I've always been amazed. I'm like, how did you nail this?
That's my thing. I'm always like, this doesn't look like it's going to cook in time where you have service in 4 hours.
How did you nail
this?
You
said this thing's been up here and it kind of looks raw. Or when they do like whole chickens to get to the perfect temperature, the skin's still crispy. I mean, that to me is magic. I mean, fire and food is magic.
It is. And I definitely think they use meat thermometers, which I will be a little dramatic to say I'll live and die by a meat thermometer. But anyone ever asks me how to cook something and they're unsure, I'm like,
just temp it.
Do this, and also make sure you just buy a meat thermometer.
Don't be a hero.
And that way you won't. Yeah, it's totally fine. But yeah, I mean, barbecue is a super awesome American institution, and it's a great way to bring people together. And another, you know, you were talking about that brisket, like the videos or whatever. So if anyone doesn't know, I feel like a lot of people know about this, but like one of the classic signs of good barbecue, at least that's been smoked, is when you bring it off the smoker and you cut into it, and like immediately below the surface of the meat, there's this really thin pink line, the pink ring, if you will. And that basically means you did a good job. And I believe that was from the smoke interacting with the water in the meat. It might be the carbon monoxide in the smoke. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
but
think you were saying something like that when we talked about it.
Yeah.
To create that bark, essentially.
Yeah. And it interacts with the water, and that's what causes that. And I mean, this is an awesome episode, but I did find, I know we discussed this in my research, but I thought it was very interesting, is that, I mentioned carbon monoxide made me think of it. But there's definitely been, people have definitely discussed like health concerns in that smoking and grilling, like pretty much probably certainly imparts some, potentially carcinogenic, compounds in the process.
Yeah. A risk I'm very happy to take.
For a good brisket.
Yeah. For anything cooked over open fire.
And then what I was kind
we
of
live
surprised,
30 miles from New York City. I'm not worried about
no, well, that's true.
pollution,
Very
air
good point.
pollution especially.
But no, what I thought was even more, that I was like, okay, that makes sense. I kind of knew that. But what I thought was even more interesting was the air pollution thing. So it's, many people believe that like grilling and smoking produces, like toxic quality air. And, it's been looked into. And while small, barbecuing and grilling is actually a significant source of air pollution. And the Maryland thing, I'm shocked again that it's just the state of Maryland, but like the Maryland Environmental, I don't know, agency, something, any commercial, it's either commercial or non-commercial. I know things are opposites, so sorry. But anything cooking apparatus like grill or barbecue that's over a total of 5 square feet in an area is like regulated by this agency. And I'm like, wow, so it's big enough of a problem that you have an agency that regulates it in one state? And it's not like Maryland is a barbecue central.
It's the American way, right?
Yeah.
I love that they have that level of regulation on it. If they tried to pull that in Texas, they would never be able to. They'd be like,
the agency would be
we're
shut down.
doing barbecue. What is the issue?
Yeah.
We're Americans. What do you expect of us?
Well, and speaking of like the different states, and I know like we looked at this together as well, but barbecue is generally most prolific in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And actually it came about in America in the South with both like poor people basically.
Yeah, blacks and whites. It was like
blacks and whites.
Totally mixed. Everybody had to get tougher
had
cuts.
to figure out a way to prepare tough, cheap meats in a way that was edible and enjoyable. And so that's how kind of like the smoking and the low and slow cooking became a thing in the South. And then there's, I think it's 13. There's like 13, they're considered like the barbecue states of the country. And in those states are 70 of the country's 100 like top barbecue spots. I was like, okay, well, I guess.
There's not going to be one in New York City. No. Although speaking of regulations, I remember there was a restaurant in New York City proper that was going to open, and they can't basically do barbecue with live fire, like fully on site, because of regulations. It's so densely populated.
Well, where would it be?
And they ended up being able to put in like some crazy exhaust system that was like pulling the smoke like far enough out. So
inside?
They were doing like actual smoking on site inside.
No way.
And I know that they now do, I mean, there's live fire cooking in the city, especially like the churrasco style with the flywheels to lower and raise those grills.
I guess.
So there's things like that. But like to run a smoker, like the size that you need for that volume is going to be producing like a ton of smoke.
I can't imagine what kind of system they. Or you have
Where'd you get your barbecue? New York City.
You have like a smoker
why?
on the roof, right? And your restaurant is like one of those restaurants that you like walk down and you're like underground and like there's like a porter running up to get ribs. I just had a crazy image in my head.
Going into a restaurant in the city, because so few people actually get to make it into the kitchen, you can go into a place and it'll have like literally 4 or 5 floors that make up the kitchen because it's so narrow.
Actually,
and they just have to make do with this. Yeah. Like I remember walking to a place, we walked down like 2 levels and then like the next level had their walk-in on it. And I was like, man, everybody here is jacked.
That like makes me claustrophobic just thinking about it. And I'm not a claustrophobic person. Yeah. That sounds very packed.
Manhattan's a little tight-knit community, small town community.
But so, funny, like you mentioned, you're like, oh yeah, there's going to be none in New York City. That article I read about the top barbecue restaurants, it went on to say it was like, and the other, like the remaining 30, likely had its roots in the South and in the Southwest or
Yeah.
whatever. I was like, all right, yeah,
No credence above the Mason-Dixon line. We
Lay
don't
it
get any
on.
credit. That's fine. Let them have the one win.
yeah.
But with the holiday coming up, what's your favorite thing that you're going to be putting on the grill? I can go first if it's easier.
Well, as you
Or
know,
on the smoker.
as you know, well, I don't have access to a smoker, so that's the only. If I have smoked meats, they will be prepared
Here.
and purchased.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, like burgers are great. They're super classic. For me, like I said, like I don't grill a ton. I much prefer like my nice cast iron, finished in the oven if need be.
Yeah, right. But
If I was grilling, I mean, I'd probably say, like for me cooking, I'd probably say burgers or like a nice marinated bone-in chicken parts. Maybe wings, but you don't really do wings on the grill. I don't really.
I wasn't expecting your answer to be that boring. I have to be honest.
Well,
Because I've watched you cook monster steaks. I love the bison tomahawk, but I'll let you.
Oh,
I'm going to let you pick another.
we're talking about
Not just us. I mean, just in general. Like, I mean, let's say dream meat.
dream scenario. Oh, well,
Yeah,
that's
dream
completely
scenario.
different then. It's the bone-in Piedmontese
Quit
export
thinking
rib.
with your budget.
It's the bone-in Piedmontese export rib. That
Yeah,
like
love
3-inch,
that.
2.5-pound steak. That's been my favorite steak since I first had it here like 6 years ago. I
Yeah.
mean, but again, I've mastered that with my cast iron method and finish in the oven because it's a monster. But I'd be very nervous on the grill. I'd have my meat thermometer handy. But no, I'm thinking like my budget, entertaining my friends. I'm like, yes, burgers and chicken.
Yeah, my friends, I'd be
Great.
like burgers and game sausages.
But what I would
60 elk sausages.
That's true. That's
Yeah, I
totally your
love-
thing. That's
yeah,
100% what you do. But if like for eating wise, I would say like give me some ribs, some brisket, but preferably like pulled pork. None of which I can really. I mean, I guess I can make ribs with what I have access to, but like definitely
just
can't
not
make
the
a brisket.
same.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it's not
putting
the
a pulled
same.
pork in a slow cooker. So, what about you, my dear friend?
Yeah, as I mentioned, bison tomahawk, easily one of my favorites, probably my favorite steak that we carry. And then looking at like some of the more grillable steaks, like either a skirt or that Wagyu bavette that we carry that I am obsessed with lately.
So good.
Definitely out of budget as an everyday thing. Or I'm a sucker for hot dogs. I'll eat.
Oh, hot dogs are so good. The
I was
bison
gonna
hot
say
dogs.
6, and then I like thought about it, and I made myself sick in my
Just edit
mind.
that out.
But yeah, like 6 hot dogs, ketchup and mustard.
Everything.
I'll put ketchup on a hot dog. I don't care what anybody says.
That's what I put on my hot dogs. Anyway, this has been super fun. I hope
Yeah,
you
I'm
have a
hungry.
great Labor Day. I
Yeah.
hope all of you wonderful people have a lovely Labor Day.
Yeah, take a day off. Don't actually labor.
Don't labor.
Please.
We'll cook on Sunday and then, just relax on Monday.
Yeah.
But anyway, please like and subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.